Hi guys, Joe Moore, a special advisor to the UK government, famously or infamously said that the 11th of September 2001 was a good day to bury bad news. What she meant, of course, was that if a government needs to release a controversial or unpopular policy, it's best to do it when the public are distracted by some major event. Well, as Donald Trump was being inaugurated, the Northern Ireland Secretary of State gave the DUP a bit of a slap across the face. Now, in December, they attempted to pull the Stormont Brake, and as I had predicted, Hilary Benn rejected the idea. Now, a more extreme Unionist party in Northern Ireland believes that Stormont should be suspended over the matter. Yeah, like that makes sense.
Not disappointed, but it proves our point that the Stormont Brake is essentially useless. The Stormont Brake has no brake pipes attached to it. My goodness, that has been laid bare today for Unionism. The Secretary of State is testing Unionists, and it's important here that we see a bit of fight back. What will the DUP do? It's a moment of truth for them, and my message is quite clear. If they aren't going to listen to us, Stormont Brake is what should break Stormont.
Oh my goodness. Okay, these people didn't want Stormont reinstated in the first place. That's an important thing to remember. Now, what is he talking about here? He's talking about the Stormont Brake. He's claiming that it doesn't work. Well, it's not the case of the Secretary of State testing unionism. It's unionism testing the Secretary of State with the Stormont Brake, or testing the Stormont Brake. So what happened was new legislation coming from the EU, and remember, Northern Ireland is part of the EU single market when it comes to goods, but it still has to follow EU regulations. This new regulation came in. The DUP and some unions decided we actually want to test the Stormont Brake. I don't believe they actually had a problem with the legislation, but they saw an opportunity. Okay, let's test this Stormont Brake and see what the Northern Ireland Secretary of State responds with. Well, Hilary Benn has said, this doesn't meet my threshold. It doesn't meet the requirements for me to reopen negotiations with the EU over this particular problem. So he rejected it, and it's well within his right to do so. This is part of the Windsor framework. Now, should this mean that Stormont should be suspended? No, of course not. It means that if the Unionists in Northern Ireland, the DUP and maybe the TUV, honestly believe that they can come up. So you actually have to present something tangible, something real, something that is really having an impact on trade in Northern Ireland or Northern Ireland as a society. You can't just keep pulling this brake and hoping that, on the 15th occasion or 20th occasion, the Secretary of State will actually respond and say, okay, let's bring together the joint committee. Because what it does at the most is suspends or delays a piece of legislation, not the Northern Ireland Protocol or the Windsor Framework as a whole. See, what the TUV are hoping for is that the DUP will respond with anger, they will pull their support from the Northern Ireland Executive and the Assembly, and then we'll be back to the bad old days. And this, of course, is an opportunity for the TUV to throw their weight around. They don't care about Northern Ireland, they don't care about the Assembly, they're just using it as a tool to bring it down. They would prefer direct rule from Westminster. They're a pro-Brexit party who are not happy with the type of Brexit that they received. They, of course, like the DUP, wanted a hard border on the island of Ireland. They didn't get that, and they're upset about that. And instead of supporting something like the UK as a whole joining the customs union or joining the single market, no, they're against that because they hate Ireland and the EU more than they love the union, like the DUP, but just more extreme. Now, will the Northern Ireland Assembly be suspended? Will Stormont go into mothballed status once again? I don't think so, at least not at the moment, because what would the DUP gain from this? They have this mechanism, the Stormont Brake, but they have to use it wisely. They can't just keep pulling it, or they can't pull it on a whim. They have to make sure that it has a real impact in Northern Ireland, present a case to the Northern Ireland Secretary of State, Hilary Benn, and then if he thinks it's legitimate, he can bring the joint committee of the EU and the UK back together, and then they can look at this legislation. But once again, the DUP don't care about the legislation. They're just playing political games. These are all tricks. If they had a real problem with the legislation, they would present it in a professional and articulate way. but they're not interested in that. It's all just a trick. And the TUV are going along with that. So if you play tricks with the Northern Ireland Secretary of State, he's going to see through that. Labour is in a strong position as well. They also have the backing of the Tories when it comes to the Windsor Framework for the most part. So, whatever the DUP and the TUV throw against the government, it's not really going to stick, at least for now. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.